Back when Claudio Reyna, kind of the director of the Development Academy or the technical director of U.S. Soccer, he said something profound. And he talked about how our competition is the world. Our competition isn't across the city at our rival club. Our competition is the world. Since I heard that, and since I really began to realize just how far behind the United States is in soccer as a whole, I really took that to heart. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to create my own training company, is that I didn't care about the crosstown rival. I didn't care about competing club versus club. I just wanted to develop players. I just want to coach as many players as I can to help those clubs. Yeah, could they compete for, a national title? Sure. Could they go to college? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, the way that I look at soccer and development is I want to develop the best players in the world in that particular age group. If it's a U8 player, I want that kid to be the best U8 player in the world. If I have a U13 player or a U14 player, I want that U14 player to be the best player in the world, or at least compete against the best players in the world. The whole ECNL versus the Development Academy, that's a waste of time to me. It really is. Because aren't we all on the same team? Isn't that getting lost in the whole conversation? Vardar versus Michigan Wolves and Michigan Hawks. Who cares? I mean, our women just went 16 years without winning a World Cup. It might be even longer until we win the next one. Our men's team hasn't qualified for the last 2 Olympics, hasn't qualified for the last World Cup, and we're worried about we coach more players than you do? How have we lost the mission or our focus? I mean, in Western New York, Flash versus Empire, I coach both. I train both players. I train GPS. I train local clubs. I don't care who you play for. I just want to help try to make you better. If you're the worst player on the team, my goal is to get you to the point where you're in the top 15. If you're the 18th player, my goal is to get you in the top 15. If you're in the top 15, my goal is to get you into the top 11. If you're in the top 11, my goal is to get you into the top 5. If you're in the top 5, I want you to try to become the best player on the team. That's all I care about. Because at the end of the day, and I know that some will listen to this and be like, "Oh my God, this guy is so arrogant. He just he thinks that he can develop the best players in the world." No, I don't. I don't think I can develop the best players in the world, but I can develop some pretty good players that will play against the best in the country. And the better the competition is that kid has to face, will make that kid better. One of my former players in Michigan, just talking to him recently, he played against Josh Sargent. Many of you won't know who Josh Sargent is. Look him up. He's currently on the second team at Werder Bremen, and he's about to get a call up and get his first minutes with the first team. So now I didn't develop Josh Sargent, but my player that defended him, maybe that defender made him a better player. And that's my mentality. One of the best players that I ever played against Freddie Adu. So we're all linked. When I was in Denver a few years ago at the ECNL playoffs coaching, Mallory Pugh was on one of the next fields. Mallory Pugh. I could have played. My players could have played against Mallory Pugh. Look at Mallory Pugh now. So the concept of it's us versus them. It's this club versus this club. It's so frustrating to me. I just want to make players better, and I want to change my environment, and really realize that think big picture. If one of my former players goes to a D1, D2, D3 NAIA school, I'm very proud of them. But that's not what drives me. What drives me is trying to make the overall country better. And I'm just one guy in Western New York. I just think that our vision, our competition has to be different. We have to look at the rest of the world. And if you think that I'm wrong, just go look at our youth national teams and see how they're doing. Go and look at our youth women's teams that tie Spain and lose to Japan and lose to North Korea and don't make it out of the group. We used to dominate. At those levels. We got knocked out of Sweden at the last Olympics. Can't wait for the next World Cup. That's just on the women's side. On the men's side, it's well documented where we're at. I think that we're all on the same team. We're all on the same team. We're all trying to develop the best players so that we can go on and create a better soccer nation for the U.S., and two, push ourselves and push our players to reach just another level. And again, it could be direct. One of my players just made the national team. Or it could be that kid that got sent to national pool, pushed the best player in the age group to actually work even that much harder. So even though that kid didn't make it or failed or whatever you want to say, even though that kid didn't make it to that level, that kid pushed this kid to reach it to the next level. We have to start thinking bigger and not just so small and think, well, my way is the way, because we're all in this together. There are no sides when it comes to youth soccer development because, like I said before, the 3 stages of coaching. At some point, you got to realize that it takes a village. It takes a village to develop players. And as Tom Byer, one of the guys that I listen to the most in terms of youth development, is when the worst player in the country is close to the best player, that's when we're really going to make strides. Right now, our gap is from the ceiling to the floor. And we have the best players up there, and we have the players down there that have no idea what they're doing. And my goal is to close that gap. And I'm starting here in Buffalo, and hopefully it can, I follow a lot of guys on Twitter that are that are in the same boat as me. We're just trying to close that gap because we've all seen players that are at the top of the team, and if the bottom of the team is way down there, they're never pushed. They can almost coast and be the best on the team. But when the worst player is about right here, this just pushes, and it just pushes and pushes and pushes and pushes, and it just goes on forever. That's my goal. So maybe this player that I coach every Wednesday isn't going to be that great, but you know what? He can push, or she can push, the kid that is. We're all in this together. Our rival, our competition isn't that club next door. It isn't. It isn't the coach that is trying to steal your player. It's not. Our competition is the world.